Hey, everybody. It's your favorite time of the week again. That's right. It's the breakdown here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, and it's fight week. UFC Wichita on tap. We got a big card ahead. And you know what? I'm going to go ahead and introduce my co host first today. Coming at you all the way from the Netherlands, Big Marcel Dorf, coming off 2 wins last weekend, not only in the head to head competition we do here on the breakdown, but also in a featured show as part of the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, Around the Cage. Big Marcel, 2 W's last weekend. How you feeling?
Yeah, feeling awesome, man. I mean, best thing ever happened to me in my life. No, just kidding. It's amazing, man. Thank you. Looking forward to another breakdown and kicking your ass again this week. No, just kidding, man. Let's see what's happening. I just kidding.
It's coming. Big Marcel claims he's a notoriously slow starter, but yes, he has won the past 2 weeks, going 9-4 last week. I had a mediocre 6-6, so he's narrowed the gap on the season. 48-27 for myself, still in the lead, clinging on to it. 46-29 for Big Marcel. Big Marcel, that was a good time being on Davidson Baker's Around the Cage podcast last week.
Yeah, man. I always love to be on this podcast. I still have no idea why I won or how I won, but hey, I'll take it. Thank you. But always fun to be on Davidson podcast. Always good.
Yeah, a great podcast host in Mr. Baker. That's one of the many shows you can find on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, brought to you on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. All great content. You can find that there on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network. But you know what? Let's stop wasting time here. It's fight week. It's UFC on ESPN Plus 4. I know you don't like to call it by the by the names here, but it's UFC Wichita, Saturday, March 9th, 2019.
Don't say that ever again. Please.
UFC on ESPN Plus 4.
Okay, I'm gone, guys. Have much fun with Max. See you later.
UFC Fight Night. What's the number, Big Marcel?
146.
146. From the Intrust Bank Arena in Wichita, Kansas, in the Midwest here in the United States of America. Fun card on tap. A lot of close fights we have. Note the early start times. In the United States, the main card is at 7 p.m. Eastern, much earlier than usual. 4 p.m. Eastern for the prelims. Big Marcel, thoughts on the card before we dive into the actual fights?
Man, many 50-50 fights on this one, man. This is a hit or miss, I think, with picking here. Looking forward to it. Some pretty cool fights on this one, I think. Looking forward to, for example, the unexpected rematch between Maurice Green and Jeff Hughes. To means Nico Price. That's an amazing fight to look forward to. And don't forget about Zaleski dos Santos against Melander. But we're not there yet. But that's also something to looking forward to.
Yeah, a lot of close fights on this card. I mean, and Anthony Rocco Martin, Sergio Moraes, Grant Dawson, Julian Rosa. I mean, it's top to bottom. We're good. Let's go ahead and kick things off. Lightweight division, Alex White taking on Dan Moret. White, a -145 favorite. Comeback on Moret, +125. Close fight on paper here, but the loser could very well be on the chopping block. Moret 0-1 in the UFC. White 12-5 overall, 3-5 in the UFC, but has lost back-to-back fights and 3 of 4 overall. So a little surprising to see him get another shot here. Big Marcel, your take on the evening's curtain jerker?
This is a difficult fight again to pick. Alex White coming off 2 losses against James Cross and Jim Miller. Before that, one against Mitch Clark, and has a win against the all-time great Artem Lobov. Dan Moret got a short notice opportunity against Gilbert Burns. I think he did pretty well in the first round in that fight, but he got finished by KO in the second. I think it's a really close fight, but I'm narrow to Dan Moret. I think he will get the decision win here. I don't see a big advantage for either one of the guys, so it's really a 50-50 fight for me, this one. But I'm going with Dan Moret. I think he will take the win by a close unanimous decision.
Yeah, I'm with you there, Big Marcel. Dan Moret seems to come from a better camp, the MMA Lab. Alex White training at a smaller gym in his native state of Missouri. Seems like Moret will have the better camp, better preparation behind him for this one, and sends Alex White into the losing column and perhaps out of the UFC altogether. All right, we go to 170 for this next one in the welterweight division. Alex Morono, a minus 185 favorite against Zach Otto, the plus 160 underdog, the Barbarian, coming off a controversial win over Dwight Grant. I know we mentioned on this podcast a couple weeks back. We both did not agree with that decision, but he's been pretty standard in the UFC, 4-3, alternating wins and losses. Morono, based in Houston, but has done most of his fight camp for the last two at Fortis MMA in Dallas, alongside Jeff Neal, Charles Bird, Ramiz Brahimai, and the gang down there. 4-2 with 1 no contest overall in the UFC. Really put together a nice, well-rounded performance last time out in China against Song Kenan. Morono just seems a lot busier on the feet in this matchup to me, and I don't know if Zach Otto is going to be able to land some of those takedown attempts that we've seen him have success with. What do you think, Big Marcel?
Man, I think you said perfectly here. I'm kind of impressed with Morono lately. I think he did a great job against Song Kenan. Won that fight pretty convincing with a unanimous decision. Zach Otto coming off 2 not so great performances in my opinion against Sage Northcutt. That was his not his last fight, but this fight before his last fight, the last fight against Dwight Grant. I don't think he won that fight. Although he's a tough dude, man. We shouldn't forget that. But Alex Morono seems more. I mean, he is more. How do I say that? He can adjust more. He has a better movement in this weight class, in this division, I think, and I think he can pick apart Otto in this fight, and also being on the ground pretty strong. So I'm going with unanimous decision, pretty convincingly for Alex Morono.
Yeah, Morono just seems to stay busier. Something he mentioned in an interview a couple weeks back with John Yanko, he just feels he's more of a fighter than Zach Otto. Otto's more of an athlete. He believes he's more of a fighter. I like Morono to get that decision there. I think he's putting together things nicely now that he's moved over to Fortis. All right, we got a razor close matchup at 135 pounds, the bantamweight. Louis Smolka taking on the number 15 ranked flyweight Matt Danger Schnell. Smolka a slight favorite, minus 120. Schnell is an even money play. And you know what? Close fight. I'm going to let my illustrious co-host kick this off.
Man, that's what you say. Very close fight. Matt Schnell got off two losses in his first 2 UFC fights, but put it well together, and 2 wins against Marco Beltran and against Naoki Inoue, which I think was pretty close. I leaned towards Inoue in that fight, so it was a split decision, by the way. So yeah, it was pretty close fight. Could have gone either way, but just giving my opinion here. Louis Smolka, we all know he got cut from the UFC after 4 how do you say that? 4 consecutive defeats. Got in trouble with his own self with the alcohol, but he's been sober now, and he put some nice wins together outside of the UFC, and he came back last November in China and defeated Sumuda Arji with a nice armbar in the 2nd round. If Smolka can get back to his old level, I think he's a threat in the division. He was a threat in flyweight, but he can also be that in bantamweight if he gets it all together. And I think he has more talent than Matt Schnell. I think Matt Schnell is a great fighter. He's also very talented, but Louis Smolka, for me, man, here, probably with a ground battle and also a unanimous decision win for The Last Samurai.
Yeah, it's something you mentioned, Louis Smolka getting sober. You know, not many people know this, but he actually, after that last UFC loss in his first run, moved into his agent, his manager, Jason House's house, and lived with him. And then Jason House was able to get him sober, get him back on his feet. 3-fight run outside the UFC, like you said, 3 wins, gets that late notice call against Sumer Daji, a fight that actually Matt Schnell turned down, interesting enough. So now they end up matched up together. He's just very well-rounded, and the way that Smolka can control on the ground and really busy with his ground and pound I think this is a good matchup for him. I see Smoka getting that round 2 TKO victory here in this one, and three fights, 3 agreements. Big Marcel, what's going on here?
Yeah, crazy, man. I mean, I told you, man, 50-50 fights, but we're all picking the same for some reason.
All right, well, we'll go ahead and go to the heavyweights. Maurice Green and Jeff Hughes, like you said, an unexpected rematch. Maurice Green came to the UFC off The Ultimate Fighter. He went 1-1 during his time there, victorious in his UFC debut via submission. Big guy, 6'7", very well-rounded, it seems. Hughes, meanwhile, 10-1 overall, 4-fight winning streak. Enters the UFC from Dana White's Tuesday Night Contender Series last summer, one of the last ones to make his debut. It took a while to get matched up. Mostly a grappler, but does a great job with his ground and pound. Meanwhile, Green, we know, really good striker. Big Marcel, how do you see this one playing out in the heavyweight division? Oh, and meanwhile, Hughes, minus 220 favorite. Come back on Green, plus 180.
Okay, yeah. Also, Green took this fight on short notice. Again, Daniel Spitz was slated to fight Jeff Hughes. Yeah, this is a tough one, man. It's a rematch. I mean, Jeff Hughes defeated him the first time via unanimous decision. Got into the Dana White's Contender Series by defeating Josh Apelt, Team Alpha Male guy. Maurice Green, the Crochet Boss, one of the best nicknames in MMA. He won against Batista, which was pretty impressive, I think. He did that by a submission in the tough final. Man, it's such a hard fight for me to pick, but I have to go with Jeff Hughes here. I think he showed in the first fight already that that he looked legit in that fight against Maurice Green, in my opinion, what I saw. And this is a short notice fight for Maurice. Jeff has had a full training camp with Stipe Miocic. Going with Jeff Hughes here, and again, maybe let's go for a finish this time, man. Unanimous decision is getting me pissed off right now. 3 fights in a row. So let's go with the TKO late in the 3rd round.
Man, I've had a hard time with this fight too, because you make some really good points. Green, short notice bout. We saw the first fight, very dominant for Jeff Hughes, but you got to think both fighters are much more improved than before. Hughes, very impressive on the Contender Series. Green, very impressive in his against what's his name? PM, is that what they call him? Miyasala on the Ultimate Fighter. Man, that's one long name. And then had an impressive submission win over Michel Batista. I know Michel Batista not quite there yet with his development, but Green, I really think he might be able to land on the feet here. He's huge for the weight class. Hughes is a strong guy, but he's not that big. But overall, man, it's hard to bet against him the way he fought in that Contender Series fight. I'm gonna go with Hughes with an unanimous decision. All right, we go to 145 pounds, featherweight division. Grant Dawson making his UFC debut, a minus 170 favorite against Juicy J. Julian Erosa, comeback on Erosa, plus 150. Erosa is a guy that seems to struggle against big hitters, but he's a guy that knows also how to make someone look bad, if that makes sense. He's 1-2 in the UFC overall, coming off that short notice loss to Devontae Smith, but a win, big win over Jamal Emmers in the Dana White Tuesday Night Contender Series. Meanwhile, Dawson, we know, out of Glory MMA in Kansas City, really good to see him get cleared of all his charges with USADA. Fought that for a long time. Well-rounded guy. Really hard to pick a winner in this one, too, Big Marcel. What's your take?
Yeah, man, that's what you say, man. Grant Dawson, he is going to finally make his debut. I mean, he won his contract in 2017 in Dana White's Contender Series, the first season, winning against Adrian Diaz. Yeah, I mean, he had a long time because he got suspended for something, or he got USADA behind him, but he was cleared from that and he got his contract back. The UFC first cut him, but he got his contract back and now he's back in the UFC. Julian Erosa, very underwhelming performance against Devontae Smith, but like you said, against Jamal Emmers, that was crazy, man. Crazy knockout in the 2nd round. Going with my mind, I think Grant Dawson will win this fight, and probably by stoppage again. I think Rosa's going to get finished again, probably by TKO in the second round this time. I see Grant Dawson getting that stoppage in his UFC debut. I really feel that.
Yeah, I just think Grant Dawson's way too talented for this fight. I could see a case where Juliana Rosa is able to kind of bounce around, land his jab, really frustrate Dawson, take advantage of perhaps any ring rust. But Dawson just seems like he's a really well-rounded fighter, and I know he trains along, in Glory MMA in Kansas City, works really closely under James Krause. Think he'll be well prepared for his UFC debut. I don't know if he puts him away, but I'll say he gets a unanimous decision here. Big Marcel, we're almost to the prelims. Something's got to give here. I feel like one of these we're bound to split sooner or later. But hey, there's nothing wrong with picking the fights the same way.
The funny thing is, I'm really 50-50 on many fights we pick already, so that's crazy.
I am too, my friend. I am too. All right, well, we got some ranked women's bantamweights on deck here. Marion Renault, number 6 ranked women's bantamweight, taking on Yana Kunitskaya. She is ranked number 9. Kunitskaya, though, currently the -150 favorite. The comeback on Renault, +130. Solid bit of matchmaking here. Tough fight to call on paper. Kunitskaya 1-1 in the UFC. We know she had that failed title bid against Chris Cyborg, but a strong decision victory over Lena Landsberg. Meanwhile, 41 years young is Marion Renault, but seems to be aging like a fine wine. Coming off a loss to Kat Zingano, but I like the way she matches up against Yana Kunitskaya. How about you?
This is also a very hard fight to pick, man, if you're going to break it down. I mean, Yana Kunitskaya, besides that Cyborg fight, she has looked very impressive, I think. Against Lena Landsberger was a good fight. Then she had those 2 fights with Tonya Evinger, which she won, actually, the first fight, but got overturned to a no contest. She also has wins over Wu Yanan and Cindy Dandois, for example. So she knows what to do inside the cage. Marion Renault, coming off that Zingano loss, but a very impressive win before by submission against Sarah McMahon. I mean, who saw that coming, right? Such a hard fight to pick, man. I'm really 50-50 on this one, because I think if Renault can get this fight to the ground, I see her winning this fight, but I see also an advantage for Yana if it keeps standing, and if she can prevent from getting bottom position on the ground. So I'm really going back and forth on this fight, man. Please, you pick first. I have no idea.
I'm going to take Marion Renault via a split decision. I like the way she never quits in there. Sometimes can turn it on late. Goes a hard 15 minutes. Strong grappling credentials on both sides. Like you said, we could have a stand-up fight. We could have a fight on the ground. Who knows? But I'm going to go with Renault here, the underdog, +130.
Okay, I'm being a bitch here, and I'm going with you. I really have no idea, man. I have really hard fight time to pick this one, and my gut feeling was Marion Renault as well, but I'm really torn on this one. So, but people always tell me go with your gut feeling, so I'm going with Renault as well. I'm sorry, dude.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with picking who you actually think's going to win the fight.
It's just I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I'm really 50-50 on this one. Not even 51-49. I'm 50-50 on this one. So.
Yeah. Razor close fights on paper for a lot of these. Headlining the prelims, we have a welterweight showcase. Anthony Rocco Martin is a -175 favorite against Brazilian, the Panther, Sergio Moraes. Sergino, kind of surprised to see that line. Sergio Moraes, a +155 underdog. Big Marcel, we got a quite a battle here at 170. What's going on?
Man, this is also a close fight. Sorry, guys, that I keep saying that, but it's just true. I mean, Sergio Moraes, very impressive in the octagon. Only 2 losses, and those losses coming to Cesar Ferreira in his debut, and against Kamaru Usman, the current champ. So, yeah, what can you say about that? Got a great win against Ben Saunders in his last fight, arm triangle choke. Anthony Rocco Martin, three wins in a row. also impressive. 2 finishes against Jake Matthews and Ryan LaFleur. I mean, and in my opinion, maybe he should have had a 7-fight win streak, because I think the Olivier Aubert-Mercier fight, he won that one, in my opinion. So crazy fight here to pick, but for some reason I convinced myself to never go against Anthony Rocco Martin again after he knocked out Ryan LaFleur. I was so impressed with that. I mean, Ryan LaFleur is such a tough guy. He's retired now, but almost nobody does that to Ryan LaFleur. You know, only Cowboy Oliveira did it, knock him out. Yeah, Anthony Rocco Martin by some kind of decision or late TKO stoppage in the 3rd round, because I think Serginho will gas out probably in the 3rd. But that's my pick, and that's a very good fight, guys. That's really a good fight. Crazy matchup here.
Both riding waves of momentum, both put together nice runs in the UFC. Martin, ultra impressive since moving up to 170, 3 wins, 3 fights and 3 wins with 2 finishes. Not sure how many noticed, but he is one of the primary training partners of the UFC interim welterweight champion Colby Covington. But Moraes, you know, one of the best Brazilian jiu-jitsu practitioners in the division, never shies away from a fight on the feet either, always willing to trade, and never an easy out either. I mean, we talked about that Kamaru Usman loss, but other than that, pretty much flawless in his UFC career. And man, I love the way Moraes matches up against fellow grapplers. I mean, look at what he did to Ben Saunders. He's done it time and time again. Davi Ramos, he stifled his offense too. I like Moraes here, either a unanimous decision or a late submission. But I agree with you, man. Really close fight on paper. Anthony Rocco Martin been ultra impressive at 170 pounds. I'm going to take Moraes via a submission, 3rd round. And finally, Big Marcel, we have a difference on paper.
We have a difference. I can't believe it, man. I can't believe it. I'm here. Damn, we have a difference.
It only took 7 fights to get there, but hey, we are here now.
Yeah, we should have started with the prelim headliner.
Yeah, it worked our way down for sure. Okay, well, now let's go to the main card. I believe we have 6 fights on this main card here. And leading things off in the middleweight division, Tim the Barbarian Bosch, another Barbarian on the card from Zach Otto, taking on Omari Akhmedov. Akhmedov, a -155 favorite. Comeback on Bosch, +135. Akhmedov out of action since December 27 in a draw to Marvin Vettori. Prior to that, he had won back-to-back fights at 170 pounds. Meanwhile, Bosch, like Marion Renault, 38 years young, but man, he still has a ton of fight left in that tank. He is 2-2 in his last 4, but Bosch still shows that ability. He can get a finish out there too. He's still got the power. The power's the last thing to go. And for me, I think Bosch avoids the wrestling pretty well in this fight. Ultimately scores a TKO in the 2nd round. So I'm going to go with the underdog Bosch here, TKO, and I will turn it over to you, Big Marcel. Do we have another difference on paper or what?
We definitely have a second difference on paper, man. I mean, dude, Omari Akhmedov is going to run through Tim Bosch, I think, man. That's really what I think is going to happen. And 1st round stoppage for Omari Akhmedov, dude. Submission. He knocks him down and he submits him. Yeah, that's going to happen. I'm sorry, man, for all the Bosch fans. I really like him as well, but Omari is going to take that. Omari Akhmedov has only 2 losses in the UFC, and that's against Sergio Moraes and Eliseu Zaleski dos Santos. And it's not going to be a 3rd one. So Tim Bosch, Omari Akhmedov, man, stoppage, 1st round, submission.
Okay. There you have it. Big Marcel pretty confident in his main card opener there, middleweight division. Now we go back down 155 pounds on deck. Another razor thin fight here. Neil Dariush and Drew Dober. Big Marcel, you got something for me?
I gotta bring it a bit with confidence, you know, because otherwise people like gotta give it a little bit more confidence that I believe it myself as well, you know. So.
You do believe in yourself, that's for sure. You know, opened up this episode just roasting on me for taking the loss last week.
Boom, roasted.
Boom, roasted. All right, back to business. 155 pounds, Beneil Dariush, Drew Dober. Dariush, a minus 175 favorite. Drew Dober, plus 155 underdog. My opinion, this fight's a lot closer than that line suggests. Big Marcel, break it down for us.
I mean, Drew Dober is doing a pretty nice job lately. I think 3 consecutive wins against Bergman, Camacho, and Tuck. Dariush, yeah, he had that crazy loss against Alexander Hernandez, that quick loss knockout, but he also said he fought safe against Thiago Moises and he got the unanimous decision. I think Beneil Dariush has more tools to his game than Drew Dober. I think Dober can't win a fight in a safe way, and Dariush can win a fight in a safe way. You know, he can use his wrestling, his high pressure, I think, and he's going to do that right here, man. I think if it's up to Dober, it will be fight of the night. But if it's up to Dariush, it will be a one-sided unanimous decision by his wrestling, I think. And Dariush unanimous decision. I don't think this will be a very fun fight for the fans to watch. But yeah, I got Dariush here, definitely.
Yeah, Dariush seems to struggle against those more athletic and those heavier hitters in the division, guys like Alexander Hernandez and Edson Barboza. And you mentioned that methodical decision win over Thiago Moises, had the crowd booing pretty much the whole time in Denver. Drew Dober, meanwhile, 3 straight wins, 5 of 6 overall, and working alongside the Elevation Fight team, and seems to be putting together his striking to get much more crisp than in some of his earlier UFC fights. Man, I think Dober can survive and land. I think he's a guy that is on the upside of his career. Meanwhile, Dariush, we might have seen the best days behind him. I'm going to take another difference here. I'm taking another underdog in Dober and TKO in the second round. I think Dariush gets him down in the first, and then Dober's able to find a way to land in that second round, picking up another TKO.
Can I be a little bitch here? I wanna mention, you said he struggled against Barboza. I think he was winning against Barboza that fight before he got knocked out. And
You
I
thought
also,
so?
yeah, man, for sure. I had him winning against Barboza. Yeah, man. And I also thought I think he underestimated Alexander Hernandez as well. So I don't know, man, if his best time is behind him. But hey, let's see. We're gonna see it next week, or we're gonna see it on Saturday, and you can rub it in my face next week. So I had to say something, man, because I think the Barboza fight he did pretty well until he got finished with that crazy knee to the face.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess agree to disagree. I thought Barboza was landing the far harder strikes in that one, and it was only a matter of time before he was going to find the target.
It's okay, man. You should just rewatch the fight, so it's all good. Just kidding. Hey, people,
fire up Fight Pass after this and go back and
just mention here that for Max it's on a day, and for me it's at night at 4 a.m. So maybe I'm wrong. Just saying that. Keep that in mind.
Marcel, how many glasses of wine or how many beers did you have at dinner tonight?
None, man, none. I'm not drinking much alcohol, so nah.
I don't blame you, man. All right, well, we got some heavyweights coming up next, and it is the return of Big Ben Rothwell, nearly 3 years away from the UFC's octagon. He takes on the former WSOF heavyweight champion Blagoy Ivanov, currently ranked number 15 in the division. Ivanov's second UFC outing, 16-2 overall, has only 2 losses in his career. Junior Dos Santos in his UFC debut and Alexander Volkov a few years back. In the World Series of Fighting, he won that belt. He defended it 4 times. Does Ivanov find his first UFC win here, or does Rothwell come back off the shelf in impressive fashion?
It's all about how Rothwell comes back, man. If he gets it, if he can get his own level of skill, I think he will win this fight. I mean, Ben Rothwell, we have seen nothing yet. So that's it. I mean, I like Ben Rothwell, man. I think he's a character, and he's a pretty good fighter. I think he's one of the always very underestimated guys in the heavyweight division. And I did it as well for some years, that I thought like he is not that much of a threat, but he showed in his fights, man, against those crazy go-go chokes. He knocked out Alistair Overeem. We can all remember that, I think. Blagoy Ivanov, good fighter, but in my opinion, hasn't faced the opponents that Ben Rothwell has faced in his career. And that's it. I have to go with Ben Rothwell here. I don't know how he's going to do it, but I think he's going to get some crazy choke again. Maybe by first he knocks him down and he gets a crazy choke again. Go with Ben Rothwell by his submission, but in the second round, seeing Ben Rothwell getting this fight, he's getting back on track, man. That Ben Rothwell in this heavyweight division is definitely top 10 material in my opinion. So I see him winning this fight.
So you don't see any kind of ring rust, anything troubling?
Yeah, that's the question. You know, that's the question. That's what we have to take in mind, right? I think if he has that problem, then Blagoy definitely has a chance to win this fight. But I think quality is also a very big factor. And this Ben Rothwell still has that same level of skill that he had. Maybe he's getting even better. You don't know what he has done in this months in this years that he hasn't been fighting. But we have to see on Saturday. I have to pick someone, and if I see the matchup, if I break it down, I have to go with Ben Rothwell in this one.
Yeah, I don't like the way Rothwell fought against Junior Dos Santos. And I think
agree.
Ivanov is kind of the similar style where he's kind of hitting and moving, not afraid to exchange heavy leather in the pocket though. And Ivanov's survived a lot of wars, man. I don't think Rothwell's going to be able to finish him. I'm actually going to take Ivanov here, unanimous decision victory. I just don't like the layoff that Rothwell's had to deal with. Fighting something with USADA, I believe he had a violation there. Just really, the suspension hit him at the wrong time, and I think he's coming into a much different division now, being there. But I'm excited to see him back in the cage, man. If he gets a win, shakes things up at heavyweight, I'm all for it. All right, so Big Marcel, we opened up with 6 straight agreements on fights, and now we have gone, I believe, 4 straight with differences. So things are starting to heat up here.
Yeah, man. Sucks for you. Just kidding.
3.
You didn't hear what I said, right?
Yeah, you said sucks for you. Yeah, I chose to ignore it. We go to 170 pounds for this next one, man. A close fight. I know we that's probably the definition of this podcast episode. Close fights. UFC Wichita. I'm sorry, UFC on ESPN +4. Had to make sure I said the title right for you. Okay. Tim Means takes on Nico Price. Means a -190 favorite. The comeback on Price is +160. Pure violence in this fight right here. Price 4-2 with 1 no contest in the UFC. It was a win that was overturned. Coming off a bad knockout loss though to Judo Thunder. Isn't that Razak Al Hassan? No. Was that yeah. Al Hassan, yeah. For some reason I mixed the name up. Wasn't there an older fighter named Razak Al Hassan too?
Yeah.
About a light heavyweight?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I thought. Price, meanwhile, opened up his own gym and left American Top Team prior to the Randy Brown fight. I think it's called Victory
Futures
MMA. Okay. Sorry, I'm mixing that up again. Means, meanwhile, emphatically back to his winning ways the last time out, beating Ricky Rainey. Could be a really good stand-up fight here. Hard to pick a winner in this one. I've gone back and forth, and currently I'm leaning Means, but I could also be leaning Price tomorrow. Big Marcel, what do you got?
I don't know, man. I'm still waiting for the apology for the title, what you said, instead of UFC Fight Night 146. But that said, let's go with the breakdown. I just act like I never heard it. Nico Price, yeah. I mean, this guy is super entertaining, just like Tim Means. Both guys are very entertaining. Super cool matchup, I think. I think everybody was pumped when they saw this fight announced. Nico Price got off that quick loss against Abdul Razak Al Hassan, like you said, but has had some solid wins, man. Alan Jouban, Brandon Thatch, Randy Brown, George Sullivan. I'm really big on Nico Price for some reason. I really think he's talented, stand up, and also on the ground. Tim Means, ultra tough veteran, I think, got that much needed victory against Ricky Rainey last November. I think Nico Price is more in his prime than Tim Means right now, and I'm sorry, Dirty Bird, but I'm going with Nico Price in this one, and another difference right here. But I'm also, like Max said, it's a really tough fight to pick because Tim Means can also finish, and both guys are finishers. Both guys are coming to throw ladder, and both guys have also some skills on the ground, you know. So it's a 50-50 matchup, but going with Nico Price here. I think he's more in his prime. He's still climbing those rankings, and I see Tim Means more of a gatekeeper kind of guy right now than I see Nico Price. I think Nico Price can still make a run in that division. I don't see that with Tim Means, but maybe I'm wrong. I don't know, but very close fight. Nico Price gotta be by a stoppage, man. This is not going to be in a decision, I think. We'll see. We'll see. It will be a decision at the end, but TKO by Nico Price in the second round. I go with that. Ground and pound.
Yeah, back and forth on this one. Price, I could see him trying to get this fight to the ground, having some success there, but Means a well-rounded guy, coming out of Albuquerque, Tom Vaughn's gym. I'm blanking on the name right now. Fit NHB. Fit NHB. Yeah. Tim Means. I heard his interview with him on UFC Unfiltered the other day. Said he's got all the injuries behind him, and now he's just 100% focused on going out there, putting on a show, and getting the job done. Man, I've had a hard time picking this fight. Big Marcel, you got something else?
Yeah, why you heard that interview?
Why what?
Why you say you heard an interview? Where was that?
Yeah, it was on UFC Unfiltered, the podcast, Matt Serra and Jim Norton.
Yeah, UFC Filtered, yeah.
Yeah. Did you say UFC Filtered?
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't resist.
Tim Means TKO round 2, continuing the streak of differences here, Big Marcel. But the violence continues at 170 pounds in our evening's co-main event. Capoeira, Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos, the currently number 14 ranked UFC welterweight, plus 100, slight underdog here. Curtis Millender, minus 120 favorite. Big Marcel, this fight on paper seems like it could be fight of the night. What should the fans expect?
The UFC had the nerve when it was announced on ESPN as well to put this on the early prelims. The first prelim was at first. And I tweeted about it like, are you absolutely crazy? And I don't think they listened to me, but it's co-main event now, so I'm happy. This fight deserves all the glory that they can get, man. These are two up-and-comers in this division. I mean, Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos, despite his split decision loss in his debut, he has like six fight winning streak. That's amazing in this division, and some good wins as well. Crazy flying knee last time out, spinning hook kick, a win against Max Griffin. Crazy fights, the war against Omari Akhmedov, who can remember that. Finally, he's now in the top 15 where he belongs, I think. Getting Curtis Millender, who made a great run so far in the UFC, coming off LFA, 3-fight win streak in the UFC. Alves Griffin, Bahadozada in his last fight. Yeah, this is a very tough fight to pick, but man, I just don't dare to pick against Eliezer Zaleski dos Santos for some reason. And that guy always brings it, always puts on the violence, always has a bonus. And he's going to get the finish here, man. He's going to get the finish against Curtis Millender. First round or second round by a knockout. He gonna knock him out cold. And crazy fight. This will be a crazy fight. Millender will put on a great battle, but I think Zaleski will put it on. Not third round like normally, like most of his fight, but I go with second round this time. This is a fight, guys. You don't want to miss this one.
This is an awesome fight on paper, and I remember your tweet about that. It set a storm on fire on the Twitter world. I mean, that the UFC would put this on the prelims. I mean, this fight could be a main event. It's that good of a matchup. Millender is a guy that experienced some growing pains in Bellator, but 3-0 in the UFC, 17-3 overall. Has won 9 straight. Zaleski, though, 6-fight win streak, like you mentioned, and he's getting finishes now. Sean Strickland was at Luigi Vendramini his last time out. He stays busier. He lands a big kick. Fight of the night potential here. And even though Curtis Millender is a patient fighter, Zaleski's going to land something big here, and he's going to get the finish. I'm going to say in the first round, though, knockout Zaleski, moving up the ranks here. But, man, that is one to look out for. That's for sure.
I thought we would have this one different, man, and we don't. I really thought we were going to get this one different. And it's like the first main card fight we don't have different.
All right, well, now we head to the main event. It's the premier showcase of the fight card. Derek Lewis, the Black Beast, number 3, currently in the UFC's heavyweight rankings, taking on number 8, the former UFC heavyweight champion, Junior Dos Santos. Dos Santos, a sizable -235 favorite. Lewis, +195 underdog. JDS, back-to-back wins, dominating Blagoy Ivanov, finishing Tai Tuivasa in December. Meanwhile, Lewis, first time back in the cage since that failed title bid in October over to Daniels Cormier. Lewis is a guy that somehow finds a way to win, and it's not pretty, but somehow he does it over and over again. Meanwhile, Junior Dos Santos in recent years is someone who seems to be fighting far more intelligently than he was before. But now it's just hard to pick this fight, because does Junior Dos Santos stick and move for 5 rounds? Or does Derek Lewis take a beating for 4 rounds and then land that TKO like he's done over and over again? Big Marcel, the main event of the evening. What's going to happen?
I have picked 9 times Derek Lewis fight. I pick 1 right, and that was against Cormier. And that's everything you need to know right here. I mean, the one time I picked him, he lost against Mark Hunt. I don't know, man. I mean, Junior Dos Santos, with his experience, the way he fought high-ranked opponents, he is a former champion. He fought the who is who in the division. He should figure out how to fight Lewis, man, and he should be able to finish him early on the ground, I think. But I think all the time that Lewis can be finished on the ground, and then Lewis puts something out of his head, and he knocks the guy out in front of him. This time, I think Junior Dos Santos showed in his fight against Blagoy Ivanov that he can go 5 rounds. Wasn't that pretty, but he could go 5 rounds. I don't see Derek Lewis going 5 rounds. So Lewis has to land in the first 2 or 3 rounds, has to land that big shot to knock out Junior Dos Santos, which can happen. But, dude, I have to go Junior Dos Santos here, man, and I will be very wrong again probably, because I always pick wrong with Lewis. But JDS by unanimous decision after 5 rounds. And don't look crazy to me if Lewis knocks him out in the first, and even JDS can knock him out, TKO him with ground and pound. So yeah, I have to go with JDS, man. My mind says JDS. Everything says JDS in my mind, but I almost don't dare to pick against Lewis anymore, but I do it again. So what do you think, man?
Said it perfectly. I mean, Derek Lewis, he pulls away. He somehow does it. And every time you think he's going to win are the times he actually loses, other than Cormier. I think we all picked Cormier in that fight. But, man, all these fights, Alexander Volkov, Travis Brown, I'm sure I'm blanking on many more.
Tibura.
Yeah, Marcin Tibura, perfect example.
Shamil Abdurakhimov.
Yeah. You thought he was down and out. Somehow, some way finds a way to win. And Junior Dos Santos, yeah, he went 5 rounds against Blagoy Ivanov last summer, but he is another guy that seems to slow down as the fight moves on. He has had those fights that he dances around and he picks the spots for stays patient. But something inside me says Dos Santos is gonna execute his game plan for 3.5 rounds or 4 rounds, and then Lewis is going to land a big right hand and follow it up and get the finish. So I'm going to go with Derek Lewis, Black Beast, TKO, late in the fight. I'll go 5th round. But man, Junior Dos Santos is fighting much more intelligent than he has been in recent years. And now this could be a fight where he gets the finish. And, like you said, he could even get the finish on the ground if he was willing to take it there. He's not going to. But if he was, he could get that finish. And just like any fighter against Derek Lewis. But, man, this is going to be a fun fight to watch. Big Marcel, that brings us to our bonus portion of the evening. Now, a lot of close fights on this card. Hard to pick winners, let alone bonus winners. But who you got for fight of the night? And you know what? I'll let you start with performance of the night, and then we'll switch it up for fight.
Performance of the night. Yeah, we're going with Zaleski Dos Santos, obviously. And let's see. Who else? I'm going with the hybrid, Nico Price. Yeah.
Okay. Good picks there. I'm also going to go with Zaleski, and then I'm going to man, this is tough. I'll take Tim Means on this one. I think he's going to get it done over Nico Price there.
Nice.
Fight
fun one.
Fight of the night. Another tough one to call. Man, I'm going to say Sergio Moraes, Anthony Rocco Martin. I think they're going to exchange on the feet. I know we could have a potential fight of the year candidate in the first round of Zaleski Dos Santos and Curtis Millender, but Curtis Millender's a patient guy in there. He doesn't exchange quite in the pocket as much as some of these other guys on this card. What do you got for fight of the night?
You saw my reaction when you said that.
Yeah.
So you can write it down with me as well.
Oh, that was your reaction. I thought you were like appalled at my choice.
No, absolutely not. I definitely agree with that one. So.
Oh, okay. The way you reacted, man, it made me seem like you were just laughing at me for picking two grapplers exchanging on the feet. But
I'll never laugh at you, man. You know that.
Underdog pick. You're gonna like this one. I'm going the Barbarian, Tim Bosch, on the evening, getting that TKO over Omari Akhmedov. I know you're very emphatic on Akhmedov, but I'm going to take Tim Bosch here as my underdog pick. Who do you got?
Dude, actually, I don't even know which underdogs I picked. You have it in front of you, so let me tell me who I picked.
Sure, I got you. Yeah, it's a good time to recap all the picks too. Dan Moret taking on Alex White. We both picked Moret, who is the underdog. We both took Alex Morono over Zach Otto, who is the favorite. Louis Smoka is a slight favorite against Matt Schnell. We both took him. Both took Jeff Hughes to get it done over Maurice Green in the rematch. He is also a favorite. Grant Dawson over Julian Arosa, another favorite. Marion Renault, we both took her, and she is an underdog, a slight underdog. Tony Martin, I picked Sergio Moraes in that one. Martin is the favorite. You took Akhmedov, the favorite. I took Tim Bosch, the underdog. You took Benil Dariush, the favorite. I took Drew Dober, the underdog. You took Ben Rothwell, the favorite, or the underdog. I took Blagoy Ivanov, the favorite. You also took Nico Price, who is an underdog, against Tim Means, the favorite. We both took Zaleski Dos Santos, who is a slight underdog somehow. And then you took Junior Dos Santos in the main event, who is the favorite. I took Derek Lewis, the underdog. So, Big Marcel, that being said, who is your underdog pick?
Pretty easy, Zaleski.
Yeah, it's hard to turn away from him in that one. He is a slight underdog in this one. So
How?
Good question, man. I looked at that right before this call too. Somehow, some way, Zaleski is an even money pick for this one. Okay, now last pick of the night. This is something new we're rolling out this week. Courtesy of one of our gracious leaders, Keith Schillen, would like to know who our lock of the night is. So who is the pick that you and I each are most confident in to get the job done? Big Marcel, I will start with you.
Who are the least confident or the most confident?
most confident. So you're locked. So who you pick? You got one pick to make. Who's going to get it done?
Oh, damn.
Regardless of odds.
Regardless of odds. That's a difficult one, man. Beneil Dariush.
I thought you were about to say Drew Dober. You picked against him.
Beneil Dariush.
Okay. Man, tough here. Louis Smolka. I'm going to take Louis Smolka to get it done here. Hard though, man. That's a hard question. Especially, the odds don't necessarily translate always as, seasoned minds like us. We know that some of these odds are a lot closer than they are on paper, and it's hard to actually be a lock, in fact.
I wrote something else, man. We haven't go through the picks last week from Fight of the Night, performance, that stuff.
All right, well, we got some time. Let's go ahead and do that. Big Marcel, Fight of the Night, Zabit and Jeremy Stevens. That did not win Fight of the Night. I believe it was Garbrandt and Pedro Munoz, correct?
Yes.
So we both missed out on that. Performance of the Night bonuses. I took Robbie Lawler and Pedro Munoz, so I got one on the board there. You took John Jones, and Cody Garbrandt, so nothing there. You did, however, Big Marcel, capture your underdog pick, Diego Sanchez, dominant over Mickey Gall in that one. We both picked him to win that fight. I took Charles Byrd, unfortunately, took a quick first round stoppage loss, and Edmund Shabazian, I did not see that how impressive he looked. What'd you think of his performance, Big Marcel?
It's amazing performance, man. Those elbows were razor sharp, and like we said in the breakdown, man, close fight, but it wasn't close at all, man. He had a pretty quick in his back, so yeah, tough loss for Charles Byrd, man. I hope he bounces back from this one. But Shabazian, very impressive by him. So very impressed by him. Good second outing in the UFC. So looking forward what we can expect from him in the future.
Yeah, a lot of intriguing matchups at middleweight for Edmund Shabazian. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week on the breakdown. As always, we are here on the Loudmouth MMA Podcast Network, so be sure to click subscribe, give us a rating, whatever you do, anywhere you find your podcast, whether it be iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube. Before we get out of here, Big Marcel, where can the people find and follow the great accounts that you put out day in and day out?
First of all, MMA DNA, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, MMADNA.nl, and my personal account, Big Marcel24 on Instagram and also on Twitter. And yeah, just talk to me and just give your opinion. Always like to go into discussions or whatever, as long as it's cool,
Yeah, love interacting with the Twitterverse, and Big Marcel does it better than anyone out there. We got to think of a good poll for this weekend, Big Marcel, to vote on. And I know you thought Weili Zhang would get that finish last week, but let's be real, that didn't happen.
So, you were right, man. You were right. I give you that, definitely. You don't get an extra
small
point
wins. You won overall. I have to take some small wins somehow.
Hey, man, I said you were right, but you don't get an extra point for it. So
exactly. The fans out there can find me, Trademark MMA, on Twitter. My content is at the Body Lock and Cage Side Press. Got a nice piece coming out about Jason House and Iridium Sports, so keep your eyes on the Body Lock for that team. The good work they're doing there. They're growing, really putting together a nice roster full of talent. And the MMA management and agencies, not a lot of people know too much about that, so I was hoping to kind of inform those folks that aren't as familiar with the process.
Better tag me, bro.
100%. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will be back next week for UFC London at the O2 Arena. Stay tuned and catch you next week.